Hi guys, it's Lauren Open 2. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be telling you guys about the catfish and murder victim, Carly Ryan. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Carly Ryan was born on January 31st, 1992. She lived with her mother Sonia in Stirling, Australia. At 14 years old, she had a MySpace account and an account on vampirefreaks.com, which used to be another social networking site, but it is now a clothing store. She began talking to an 18-year-old American musician from Texas by the name of Brandon Kane. He claimed he was living in Melbourne and had similar taste as Carly. Carly was emo, so she wore mainly black clothing, dark eyeshadow, and red or black lipstick. Carly's mother was very cautious about who she was talking to online, so in order to be able to monitor her internet access a little more closely, the family computer stayed in the kitchen. Carly also supposedly spoke to Brandon's adoptive father, Shane, who was a security guard. Brandon and Carly seemed to have normal conversations on the phone. They would talk about music, school, anything that normal teenagers would talk about. Over time, Shane seemed to progressively get more involved in their conversations and more often. And it got to the point where Sonia told Carly that something seemed off, something was not right. However, Carly begged her mom not to ruin her relationship, and she eventually fell in love with Brandon, and she felt like Brandon had fallen in love with her too. Around her 15th birthday party, Shane showed up to Carly's house with hundreds of dollars worth of clothes, including a corset and lingerie, which was supposedly from Brandon. Shane wore a shirt with a security logo and even showed his security license as well. He had nowhere to stay, so Sonia allowed him to come to Carly's birthday party and then spend the night at their house, and apparently he seemed just like a loving, caring father. However, it was found out that at the party, Shane told Carly, "I love you, I would never let anything happen to you, you are beautiful." She also told her mother that he had made sexual advances towards her, so with that information, Sonia threw him out. Carly did reject him up front and called him old, fat, and gross. Sonia had began monitoring Carly's internet life a lot more closely, and Carly and Brandon had been in contact for a total of 18 months. Now we've come to February 19th, 2007. Carly told her mother that she was going to a sleepover with friends, but by February 20th, she still had not returned home, so Sonia decided to call the police. As you can probably guess, Carly was not planning on going to a sleepover with friends. She was actually going to meet Brandon at a secluded beach in Port Elliot. His request. Later that morning, somebody walking the beach found Carly's body floating face down in the water at Horseshoe Bay. She was bashed, her face was shoved into the sand, suffocating her, and then she was thrown into the water to drown. The autopsy revealed 19 injuries, including multiple blows to the head. The cause of death was facial trauma, suffocation, and drowning, all in one. And they even found sand in her esophagus. The investigation began by checking the security footage in the Port Elliot area, and Carly was seen with two men driving a light blue car. She was last seen alive at 9:30 p.m. by witnesses. The blue vehicle led police to 50-year-old Gary Francis Newman, and this is who Sonia and Carly knew as Brandon's father, Shane. On March 3rd, Gary's house was raided, and they found the computer used to talk to Carly with the Brandon Kane account open, and they also found a notebook with over 200 online aliases to talk to other girls. I also read in an article that he was caught in the act, and when the police came to raid his house, he was in the process of talking to another teenage girl. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate, but I did read that somewhere. Now, Gary had forced his adoptive teenage son to go along with his scheme and pose as Brandon in those phone calls with Carly. He was the other person in the CCTV footage from the beach. Both guys were arrested during the raid, which happened only 11 days after Carly was murdered, and it was also found out that Gary's son witnessed him kill Carly as well. However, while being questioned, Gary denied knowing Carly whatsoever. He denied having anything to do with this, and he kept his denial going throughout his entire trial. His trial went on for many months. However, ultimately the jury found Gary Francis Newman guilty of murder. South Australian Justice Trish Kelly ordered him to serve life behind bars without the possibility of parole for 29 years. His adopted son was acquitted of all charges, and his identity was never revealed because he was a minor at the time, and Justice Kelly said, "Gary Newman deserves a life behind bars for his grossly perverted plan to deceive, seduce, and murder Carly. It was a terrible, cruel thing you did to this beautiful, impressionable 15-year-old child." I say child because that's what she was. A child that fell in love with the idea of the handsome, musically inclined, and rather exotic Brandon Kane. The real man was in fact an overweight, balding, middle-aged pedophile with sex and murder on his mind. So that is kind of where we are left with Carly's story, but there is one other side story that I would like to mention to you guys because I want to know your guys' thoughts on what went on with this as well. So after reading about Carly's murder on the internet, that helped remind another mother of a possible catfish situation with her own daughter. She was 13 years old and allegedly talking to another teenage boy from New Zealand for several months. They met on MySpace and he went by the name Elliot, and she was also kind of emo and goth as well. This mother actually claims that her daughter and Carly probably would have been best friends if they knew each other back then, because they had a lot in common. They had a lot of the same interests, and in general they were just a lot alike. So this mother seemed suspicious of this Elliot guy, and she was concerned that her daughter was falling for him. She tried speaking to her and talking some sense into her, but her daughter didn't want to listen and said that he is cool and definitely a teenager. Her mom started monitoring her computer the best she could, but eventually life got in the way with work, raising kids, and honestly, after the discussion with her daughter, she didn't really talk about him anymore. However, in the spring of 2007, she randomly remembered. She asked her daughter if she was still talking to this guy, and she said no, their communication just abruptly stopped. So that brings me to my question. Do we think that Gary Francis Newman was also speaking to this 13-year-old girl who seemed to be a lot like Carly? Maybe that part's a coincidence, who knows? But do we think that it's the same guy? Her mother says it's unlikely, but she's positive her daughter was talking to a grown man. I don't know how unlikely it could be. The only thing that might make her think it's unlikely is because this guy did say New Zealand, whereas obviously the other one was Australia. But the timing is what gets me. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but Carly was murdered in mid-February of 2007. It took 11 days for them to find who did it and make the arrests. So obviously this guy was locked up, and all of a sudden in spring of 2007, this mother finds out that communication just abruptly stopped with her daughter and this other secret unknown man. I don't know. The timing is strange. It's suspicious, but the location is also very odd. The only thing is, maybe that 13-year-old is from New Zealand. I'm not sure all the details. She could be from New Zealand, and that was just gonna be the next victim. Who knows? Maybe directly after Carly, he moved on to somebody else. I mean, he went to Carly's house, and when he spoke to her online, he said, from my research, what I can tell, he said he was American and that he was studying in Melbourne. So maybe this guy is traveling, trying to prey on all these girls from literally around the world. So anyways, sorry for that tangent. I am just like super invested in this. The Carly Ryan Foundation was made by Sonia in 2010. The goal is to create awareness and educate parents and children about using the internet, also find gaps in child protection legislation, draft and recommend additions to policy, equip law enforcement to arrest child predators sooner, enabling courts to successfully prosecute offenders. The law did pass in 2017, and in 2018 a stricter version of the law passed in South Australia. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it a thumbs down. I don't really care. Subscribe if you're new. Comment down below videos you would like to see next. Let me know what you guys saw in this case. Let me know your theories. I'm really excited to hear your guys' thoughts on this one. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!